Welcome, everyone. This is Pops, and tonight I'm going to tell you a story. We are going to dive deep into the darkness. So, you may ask, what happened? How did we get here? The world as we know it is upside down. What is good is now bad, and what is bad is now good. The world is ruled by elite groups of people. You can call them Illuminati, Freemasons, globalists, and deep state, and more. So what is their agenda? Well, get ready and buckle up, because we're going to dive deep down the rabbit hole tonight. We were told in school that our presidents, prime ministers, kings, queens, and government work for the people and have our best interest in mind. Well, that's not exactly true. In fact, they are puppets on a string, being controlled by their puppet masters. And who controls the puppet masters, you may ask? Secret societies and corporations. And who controls the secret societies and corporations? Well, you guessed right. Demonic forces. Is this real or a conspiracy theory? There's an old expression, if at first you don't succeed, try doing it the way mom told you to in the beginning. The only way to understand is to go back thousands of years ago to the most ancient civilization in history, Sumer. Sumer is the earliest known civilization in the historical region of southern Mesopotamia, also known as South Central Iraq. They emerged during the 5th and 6th millennium BC. It is also one of the first civilizations in the world, along with ancient Egypt. What we have learned about the Sumerians is written in cuneiform script on tablets, and also their art and statues told us a lot about them. The Sumerians were a thriving economy, and archaeological finds show us that they had indoor plumbing, flushing toilets, grand pyramids, and temples, and more. The Sumerians were a marvel to civilization. Because of a drought in economics, and most important, to spread their pagan religion, a tribe from Sumer went northwest and spread all the way to Canaan. There was a second tribe that left and went further north to what we now know as Ukraine and southern Russia, between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, where they founded their homeland called Khazaria. In no time, Khazaria became wealthy because of a strategic location on the Northwest Silk Road. They charged a toll for merchants to pass. The Khazarians were considered to be ruthless people, bandits, spies. They would kill people and take their identities. They were lawless, cruel, sexually immoral. They were the masters of deception. The Khazarians were said to worship Baal, a Luciferian religion that required child sacrifice. In return, they believed they would be rewarded with riches, power, and even drank their blood, claiming it would give them immortality. The Khazars' bordering countries despised the Khazars' lawless society, and most of all, their sacrificial Luciferian rituals. The people were crying out to the Russian ruler to stop them. The Russian ruler knew he had to put an end to this. He told King Bolon that their Luciferian practices had to end, or he would destroy them. He demanded that King Bolon convert his people to one of three religions: Islam, Christianity, or Judaism. The ultimatum was delivered. King Bulad decided to evaluate all three religions, so he invited a Christian priest, a mullah Muslim religious figure, and a rabbi. After consulting with all three religious leaders, he realized his best choice was Judaism, based on that he was surrounded by Islamic and Christian nations, and that the Christians and Muslims were at constant war. He made a strategic, genius choice. Khazaria would now be neutral, not picking a side. Even though King Bulon chose Judaism, he really did not convert. He just took elements from Judaism and forged them into his own Luciferian beliefs. King Bulon and his people lived on, and nothing had really changed. They still went on doing what they had done before. The only thing that had changed is the outside world now call them Judeans. Hundreds of years went by. In 965 AD, the Russian ruler Prince of Kiev, felt they had not stopped their evil ways and had gone too far with their child sacrifice rituals. The Russian prince also knew how rich the Khazars were and their constant flow of gold and silver due to the tolls on the Silk Road. This had to be the number one reason for his conquest of Khazaria, because he was a pagan himself. So the Russian prince decided to invade and wipe them off the face of the earth. But their plan failed, as the Khazars had spies everywhere, and the king of the Khazars caught wind of the Russian prince's plan and escaped his wrath. He left Khazaria with a huge amount of gold and treasure, enough to start another country all over. He left with his 25 wives, 60 concubines, and many children, and all the nobles of Khazaria. They went through Hungary, Poland, Germany, France, and Spain. Each country that they went through, they left some nobles behind to gain riches and power. They had to disguise their religious beliefs, knowing that they would not be welcome because of their Luciferian beliefs. They called themselves Ashkenazi Judeans. The Ashkenazi swore to rebuild their empire, and they most certainly did. They built a network of power and money and influence all throughout Europe. They also swore to get even with Russia for expelling them from Khazaria, and also swore vengeance against the original people of Judea. Why, you may ask? This goes back to the rule of Queen Jezebel, an evil queen. She was the wife of King Ahab. She persecuted and tried to destroy God's prophets. She was trying to establish Baal worship through Israel, but she had one big problem. His name was Elijah. He was a prophet for the Almighty Yahweh, known today as Yahushua. The people of Judea chose Yahweh. The Ashkenazi would never forget and swore vengeance for all time to get even with the original people from Judea. Now, some of the pieces of the puzzle will start to come together. Within a few years, the Ashkenazis started to gain enormous power in Europe. They created a master plan so evil that it would enslave and change the fate of the world forever. One of the families that joined the exodus from Khazaria were called the Rothschilds. That's right, you heard me, the Rothschild family. They settled first in Frankfurt, Germany, where they became wealthy in banking and trade. Maya Rothschild, at the age of 19, joined his brothers in a trading business started by his father. Maya became a dealer in rare coins, which helped him develop ties with kings and nobles. In 1770, Maya married Gutle Schnapper, the daughter of money changer and court factor. She gave birth to his 10 children. They had 5 sons and 5 daughters. The Rothschilds' banking empire grew rapidly during the French Revolution. It is said he financed both sides, England and France. This way, he could not lose, no matter who the victor was. In the early 1800s, Maya Rothschild sent his sons to live in Naples, London, Paris, Vienna, and he kept one son in Frankfurt. The Rothschild Empire now had 5 linked branches and became the first bank to transcend borders, lending to governments to finance wars. In no time, they became the financial power of all Europe. They even became the treasurers of the Vatican. Now we have to pause this storyline and go back to the early Middle Ages for a second storyline. Don't worry, it will all come together for this 18th century event that changed the world. Hello everyone, this is Pops. Today we are going to start the second storyline in the age of the Crusades. In 1048 AD, an organization known as the Knights Templar became the sovereign military order of Malta. They were split into 2 orders. One order ran a hospital to help Christian pilgrims. The other was a military order, tasked by Rome to protect the Christian population and protect the pilgrims traveling from Europe to Jerusalem. Their symbol was the Maltese cross. This order today is considered an independent subject of international law, meaning it is a quasi-independent sovereign entity. with some of the international rights given to other countries. Yet this order is not a state and holds no claims to any land, and its members are citizens across the world. This order still holds its allegiance to the Vatican and the Pope. It is said they helped the rise of Germany during World War II. And the German leaders after World War II escaped through networks like the Underground Railroad, known as the Vatican Rat Lines. A journalist named Seymour Hersh exposed the My Lai massacre and the White House assassination squad on January 17, 2011. Hersh mentioned the Knights Malta in a speech to the Georgetown University campus in Doha, Qatar. Hersh alleged that a lot of members of the U.S. Special Operations Command and the Joint Special Operations Command support and are members of the Knights Malta. They went on to say that the Knights of Malta's mission was against the Islamic fundamentalists and considered it a crusade. The first 50 years of their existence was in Christian territory. In 1096 AD, the first of 9 wars broke out. It became known as the Crusades. The Crusades were religious wars initiated and supported by the Roman Catholic Church. Their goal was to recover the Holy Land from Islamic rule. 3 years after the Crusaders went to the Holy Land, this goal was achieved. Godfrey de Bouillon was a French nobleman and a leader of the First Crusade. He was the first ruler of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. He avoided using the word king and used the word princeps, and had a secondary title called the Defender of the Holy Scripture. Godfrey only ruled for 1 year after his death in 1100. He was succeeded by his brother Baldwin, who was crowned King of Jerusalem. He lasted until his death in 1118. He was known as the Leper King. Just like his brother, forced conversion was at the top of the list. Nearly 2 million people had died. In 1118, a French knight by the name of Hugh de Payon founded a military order with 8 other knights. He was the co-founder and first Grand Master of the Knights Templar. In association with Bernard of Clairvaux, he created the Latin rule, the code of behavior for the order. Its 72 clauses define the ideal behavior for the knights, such as the type of garments they were to wear and how many horses they could have. This order sprung from the order of Priory of Sion, and that order is still said to be active today. With the support of the King of Jerusalem, the Knight Templars set up their headquarters on the Second Temple Mount. Their official goal was to protect the pilgrims coming from Europe along the roads to Jerusalem. 9 knights were officially appointed to protect the Christian pilgrims over a distance of 3,000 to 4,000 miles. The Almighty only knows how they did that. Another goal was to rebuild the Temple of Solomon, which had been destroyed in 586 BC by the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. Why was this so important to them? Well, we'll find out later on. In the year 1129, the Order of the Knights Templar received the official support of the Vatican. The order grew rapidly and would become wealthy through enormous amounts of donations from all over Europe. The Knights conducted a code of conduct in which they swore total obedience to the Grand Master. They did not even think about what they were doing. They just followed orders unconditionally. The Templars became the right hand of the Grand Master. At its height, the Templars had over 20,000 members. Only 2,000 were armed knights. The other 18,000 took care of finances and logistics. The order was exceedingly wealthy, owning vineyards, businesses, farms, land, arms, equipment. They even owned the island of Cyprus, and also had a large fleet of ships. In every corner of Europe, all the way to Jerusalem, they had castles, churches, universities. They were so powerful that they did not have to obey local laws, no matter where they were. They did not even have to pay taxes. Imagine that. Everything they took from the Muslim population, they were allowed to keep. They were exempt from all authorities, except for the Pope. All the order had to do was to swear allegiance to the Pope. The Pope Innocent II took care of everything by signing the papal bull Omni Datum Optimum in 1139. The bull is simply the format in which a decree of the Pope appears. Any subject can be treated in a bull, and many were and are. The bull was the exclusive letter format from the Vatican until the 14th century. The most distinctive characteristics of a bull was the metal seal. There was one area the Templars excelled in: banking. They had many banks throughout Europe. The system of banking was primarily owned by the government. They were much closer to a private bank. By the 13th century, they were so competent in banking that they went from rags to riches. Kings, queens, and noblemen would send large amounts of gold and silver through their banks to pay their armies in Jerusalem. In the year 1307, the site, what is now the Temple stop on the Paris Metro, King Philip IV launched a raid on the Paris Temple, the first of a series of arrests across Europe. They met their final destiny: King Philip IV of France. He was in heavy debt to the order. When King Philip asked for more loans, the order refused him. So he decided it was time for the Knights Templar to be exterminated. On Friday the 13th of October 1307. Does that date ring a bell? A large number of knights were arrested, including their Grand Master, Jacques de Molay. After years of imprisonment, many of the knights, including Jacques de Molay, were burnt at the stake. Medieval documents say that Jacques de Molay called out a curse on the king and the Pope, Clement V, who had failed to protect them, and dissolved the order through Fox and Excelsior. In 1312, the Knights Templar was dissolved, but he did not formally condemn the order. 1 month later, Pope Clement died. 8 months later, King Philip died. It is said the Pope was struck by lightning inside the church where he was sleeping, and he was burnt to ashes. The king suffered a stroke while he was hunting. Many believe he was poisoned.